Backhouse Reviews Woman in Black. Woman in Black, start off, it's a good, efficient, scary film. Probably one of the best horror films I've seen in the last 12 months, and not of all time, but certainly with some of the current fare, it's a decent film. There's no doubt about that. And obviously, Hammer, Hammer Films back in production. I think they brought us The Woman in Black, The Quiet Ones, which I'll be reviewing a bit later, and also Woman in Black 2. Um, and I was thinking about how I'm going to review The Woman in Black because when I was thinking about it, I was sort of thinking to myself, well, not a lot happens in the film. It's just effective. It's tense all the way through. Um, there's reward for the tenseness as well. Not excessive, but there's a few jump scares that are enough. Probably throughout the film, I could say 5 or 6 times, I understood that it was scary or that it was trying to do something that was proper correct in the sort of horror genre. So yeah, it was a good film. And as I said a moment ago, when I looked back initially, I thought it's going to be a really difficult film to talk about and review because not a lot happens. And then as I was sitting through about what I was going to say, I realised, well, maybe it was a bit more to it than I was originally thinking. And so we'll run through the story, and we won't do it in order because there's things that you find out at the end that you realise from the start. So the film starts off with 3 girls seemingly told by someone, obviously the woman in black, to jump out of their windows. They jump out the windows and they die. Next scene is Daniel Radcliffe, who throughout the film, if there's one criticism, you could talk about the ending. Probably we'll come to that. Probably Daniel Radcliffe's a bit emotionless as well. He struggles to run through the gauntlet of emotions. He has a really tough time with trying to convey anything other than I'm having a shit. Because I sometimes feel like when I'm watching him that, are you having a turd? Is that genuine upset or are you constipated? I just don't know. It's a minor qualm, I suppose. And so then the film cuts to Daniel Radcliffe, and you find out that he's a father who looks after a child by himself. The mum died in childbirth. He hasn't really coped with it really well, Daniel Radcliffe, and he could get sacked from his job. And he's sent. He goes to work, and he's advised by Thursday from Endeavour, which was really nice to see him, that he's got to go to this town up north and sort out the papers of someone who's died. So he goes on the train. Just before he actually goes on the train, he says goodbye to his son, and the son and the nanny are going to go meet him in a few days' time up north. And straight away you think to yourself, I think that's a bad idea. Hindsight's obviously a brilliant thing. Daniel Radcliffe doesn't know that the woman in black's waiting for him. But, I kind of knew that, and there's spoilers here, so beware. I kind of knew that Daniel Radcliffe was going to die, and the reason why, well, I wasn't 100% certain, but when I was reading about the second film, and they were talking about the second film in a magazine, they were saying, well, obviously Daniel Radcliffe can't be in the second film because his character's dead. And I thought, well, does that mean he dies in the first film? Or is it because the second film's set 30, 40 years past the first film? So I wasn't 100% certain, but you kind of think to yourself, well, it sounds like he might die, and immediately as though you hear that his son's going to come up north, you think, well, he's going to die trying to save his son. And that was the immediate first thought there. So anyway, he's on the train, meets a guy on the train. Guy on the train lives in the town that he's going to, and gives him a lift to where he needs to go, which is a tavern or an inn where his firm had booked him a room. Well, it turns out that the inn people were like, no, we're fully booked, no room here for you, and they don't want him there. The people of the town are hostile towards him, not violently, but just in the looks and the stares. Um, and in the end, because he's got nowhere to go, the people at the inn say, well, you can stay one night, you can stay in the attic. And the attic is where, from the start of the film, the three girls killed themselves. So that was a little bit weird, because I'm thinking to myself, they were the parents of the three girls that ran the inn. And I thought, well, would you really want someone staying in that room? I mean, wouldn't you want to leave that as a shrine to your girls? I was a bit uncomfortable about that. So then he goes to Ill House, and no one really wants to take him there, but some guy with a horse and cart takes him there, goes through the marshes, and he finds out that the old lady who run Ill House, House, which is the lady who died, whose papers he's going to sort out, her, what you think to be son, died in the boggy marshlands. I suppose it's marsh. And as he's a little bit later on, he sees a vision of the boy dying. He's trapped on a horse and cart. They can't pull him out, and we're going to jump straight forward here. The woman whose affairs he's sorting out, well, she's not the real mother of that boy. The real mother is the woman whose affairs he's sorting out, sister. They adopted the boy from the sister because I think she was either insane or there was something wrong with her anyway. And she blames the woman who dies or who's dead. She blames her for the death of her son, saying, you should have saved him, you didn't try and save him. And she hangs herself in the house and effectively is haunting. Whilst the old woman is alive, she's been haunting her. And turns out that the reason the townsfolk are so hostile to Daniel Radcliffe is because any sighting of the woman in black, which is the sister who hung herself, results in the death of a young person in town. And you see that happen whilst Daniel Radcliffe's there. There are sightings of the woman in black. Daniel Radcliffe himself sort of spies her a few times. There's a few scary moments going around in the house. A particularly good moment with some crows, or a crow that was really decent actually. A little shock scare, but it worked fine. And you've got a little girl that poisons herself. You've got a little girl that sets herself on fire. So there are these deaths that are going on, and you find out that what the woman in black is doing is she's guiding the children to do it. She's sort of telling them to do it, and they're committing these acts, and she's doing that because she's angry she lost her boy. And Daniel Radcliffe kind of works this out, and he thinks to himself, the only way that I can solve this is if I reunite the woman in black with her son, so son to mother. And so the guy that he meets on the train, who's also lost a boy, this is the guy who drove him to town. They sort of become friends. He has dinner with them as well. As I said, he finds out that he lost a son, potentially to the woman in black, and the wife's a bit crazy, but nice crazy. And he's got a car, and he says to him, we need to go to the marshlands, pull out the carriage that's gone down in the marsh or the bog, and pull the son out and get the body, and then take the body into the house. So they do that, and gets the body out, which the body's quite well preserved. I suppose it would be in a bog. He takes the body into the house, and effectively he does reunite the spirit with the boy, and quite a nice little touch, I suppose. And you sort of think to yourself, well, the film's over. Well, no, it's not, because he may have done that, Daniel Radcliffe, but she's still a malevolent spirit, or whatever you want to call it. She still holds a grudge. She hasn't forgiven. She hasn't forgotten for what's happened here. And even though he does that nice thing she wants revenge on him, I suppose, and so he's at the train station again with the guy who has been driving him around, and he's sort of made friends with, and he's reunited with his son, and the son and the nanny have come up, and the son's holding his hand at the train station, and the woman in black sort of whispering to him, "Come here," or edging him to come over across the train tracks, and he lets go of Daniel Radcliffe's hand and runs across the train track, and Daniel Radcliffe realises this and sees there's a train coming, and runs to save him. Well, you think he runs to save him. What he actually does is he runs and he grabs him, and they're hit by the train. And what I didn't get is, if I was in that position, I see there's a train coming, I see my son's in the way, I'm going to run down and I'm going to push him out the way. And I didn't quite understand why he did that. Again, minor quibble. But that in the ending, I thought was a little bit silly. And Daniel Radcliffe, he doesn't realise at first that he's dead, and then he turns and he sees his wife and the boy's mum, and Daniel Radcliffe and the boy, walk off into the afterlife, I suppose, with the wife. And again, as I say, it was a decent, it was an effective film, a good few jump scares. It worked. It's not a 10 out of 10 film. It's a 7 out of 10, but it done enough. What I liked, we said about the atmosphere, how tense it was. The settings was really good. Even, I presume it was Victorian or early Edwardian London, where Daniel Radcliffe was. You see a little bit of that. It looked like Hammer had really put a lot of effort into doing it. And, I know they spent about, I think, 20 million on it, which is a fair sum for a horror. A lot of horrors are made for under 5 million or 3 million. But, it was money well spent. My only gripe, I said about Radcliffe, the emotionless person, or the emotions of being on a toilet, I did think a better ending would have been for Daniel Radcliffe to have pushed his son out the way, as I said, saved the son. He gets hit by the train, he's killed, and the boy goes and is looked after by the old man who Daniel Radcliffe met on the train and who's giving him lifts around, because they've lost the son. And it would have been nice if they'd have left the town, left the woman in black, and so the mum, who she was a bit crazy because she lost her boy, and the dad, who was a decent guy, they'd have looked after the boy. And you move on to a sequel, which we've got now, which we'll move back to, I think it's Angel of Death. What a good sequel would have been for the boy, now he's 20, 25 years old, going back to the town and saying, what happened to my dad? I want to know the truth about what happened here. That would have been a really, really interesting premise, I think, for a sequel. And but nevertheless, it's a good film. It's a lot better than The Quiet Ones, which is the second Hammer film of the revival that we'll be looking at. That film is tense, like The Woman in Black, but there's no real give to us. We sit through it, and what you can say about The Woman in Black is it does give to us. It pays off on occasion. It doesn't pay off hugely, but there's enough in it for you to say, it was worth me sitting through that tenseness, where you sort of feel like there's not a lot happening, but it's building up these scares for you, and it's not letting you down. There's no dodgy CGI really. It felt good. It felt old-fashioned, and that's what I thought about the film. Backhouse Reviews will be back. Quiet Ones will be next, and after that we'll see where we go.